Ink and affection. Margot had always believed letters held magic. The way a curve could soften a word, the way a firm serif could add strength. Her calligraphy work was more than ink and paper. It was an art, a way to communicate unspoken emotions. Running a boutique design studio in Brooklyn, she specialized in hand-lettered wedding invitations. Each stroke carried meaning, each flourish a whisper of the love stories she immortalized. But when Reed Sterling walked into her shop one crisp autumn afternoon, he brought a story she never expected.
"You designed the invitations for my wedding,"
He said, his voice smooth but careful, as though each word had been considered before it left his lips. Margot felt the weight of his gaze as she searched her memory. The name clicked into place. Reed and his fiancée had chosen a sleek, modern design, a bold contrast to the whimsical, romantic styles she usually favored. She recalled the way she'd subtly softened the edges of the typeface, an unconscious rebellion against their rigid choice. But there was no ring on his finger now,
I remember.
she said gently.
How can I help?
He exhaled, raking a hand through his hair.
"I need your help rewriting something. Not an invitation this time, a letter."
Margot blinked.
A letter.
Reed nodded, hesitating before he slid a folded page across her desk.
"It's an apology, but my words, they don't feel right. I need someone who knows how to say what I can't."
Curiosity sparked in Margot's chest. She unfolded the letter and scanned the lines. The structure was precise, almost mathematical, like a blueprint for emotion rather than emotion itself. It was logical, neat, but it lacked heart.
You want me to rewrite this?
Reed met her eyes.
"I want you to show me how."
Margot hesitated, then nodded.
Let's start with why you're writing it.
The conversation that followed unraveled something unexpected. The letter was for his ex, not a plea to reconcile, but a genuine acknowledgement of his mistakes, a closure he hadn't known how to give before. Over the next few weeks, Reed became a regular at the studio. He listened intently as Margot explained the way certain words carried warmth, how spacing could create a rhythm that made emotions resonate. She taught him to let feelings slip between the lines, to embrace the imperfections in his penmanship. In turn, she learned about him, about his love for architecture, his belief that every structure told a story. He spoke about buildings the way she spoke about lettering, seeing beauty in the details, the history behind the facades. Somewhere between the late-night coffee-fueled sessions and the quiet moments where she adjusted his hand on the pen, something shifted. A connection formed in the spaces between letters, in the glances they shared over curling pages and ink-stained fingers. One evening, as they stood by the large window of her studio, Brooklyn's skyline glimmering behind them, Reed handed her a page. His handwriting was still careful, but now there was softness to it, a rhythm that spoke of something more than just precision. Margot read the words slowly, her pulse quickening. But this wasn't an apology letter. It was something else entirely. I used to believe that the strongest lines were the ones that stood unyielding, that the best structures were the ones built to endure without bending. But you've shown me something different, that the curve of a letter, the sweep of ink, the spaces between, these are what make things whole. And maybe that's how love works too. Not rigid or structured, but fluid. Something that finds its way into the spaces between. Margot looked up, heart in her throat.
Is this?
"A love letter.
Reed admitted, his voice quieter now.
For you."
The city hummed outside, but inside the shop, everything was still. Margot traced the lines with her fingertips, feeling the warmth of his words before she lifted her gaze to his.
It's perfect.
She whispered, then smiling she added,
But maybe, just maybe, it needs a flourish.
Reed chuckled, stepping closer.
"You'll have to show me how."
And as Margot leaned in, her lips brushing his in the softest, most beautifully imperfect way, she realized she had already begun. The end.
Love this story? There's more romance coming your way. Follow for more heartwarming short stories like this post if you enjoyed it, and stay tuned, another love story is just around the corner.